meeting for September 15th is now in session. I guess we'll start with a call to order. We got a quorum. We don't need to repeat anybody's name. After that, I guess we'll get to the invocation, and Rhonda has offered to say the invocation, so if everybody take a minute, let Rhonda say the invocation.
Thank you, Father God, for allowing us to be here this evening to make the right decisions for our town. Bless our town's first responders, our town mayor, commissioner, town manager, and Mint Hill office staff. Thank you for allowing us to work together, making profitable, productive, insightful decisions for Mint Hill. Bless our nation, Lord. Heal our nation. Bring us closer together, closer to you. Bless and protect our lawmakers, our military, our law enforcement, and our citizens. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Thank you.
I guess we'll get first on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from July 21st.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Scott has motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
George is seconded. All those approved, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Additions, deletions, or of the agenda item, anything? John? Reports of committee members and staff, got anything on there? Nothing? Okay, old business. Do we have any old business to discuss? I guess we get to move right into new business, starting with the discussion recommendation on ZC 25-5 filed by Mike McGee for conditional rezoning to allow expansion of the Shiloh True Light Church campus to include classrooms, dorms, living quarters, bunkhouse, family life center, and 12 residential lots for property located at 8560 True Light Church Road, tax parcel number 137102-10 and 137102-03. I guess we'll start off by letting the applicant provide a presentation.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike McGee. I have been a member of the Shiloh True Light Church for about 54 years. Been a minister there for 21 years. And just some things there, as you can see, we have been blessed with a lot of property there over the years. We have purchased for use that we use a lot of it in the school that we have there. We have about approximately 150 acres on our campus there. And we have been looking at it now for the last 3 years. So what can we do with some of this to help some families and children? That's the goal, what we can do to help somebody that doesn't have the same opportunity or doesn't have what some of us may have. And we started looking at it and we said, okay, what can we do to help them seem like a single mom that maybe is homeless? And that's another thing, though. Homelessness in families is way more than what we really think about. I'm involved with the Union County homeless shelter there. I built the shelter for them. And when we put that thing together, we only did, or we thought we were doing a bunch. We had 7 units in that facility there that would hold approximately 100 other single people. And we put 7 units in there for families. And that has come up very insufficient because there's more families that for some reason they may lose their home, or one of the breadwinner may get sick and they can't afford to stay in their home. So they got to have a place to live for a while till we can help them get back. And that's one of the things that what we're looking at is what can we do to help these people? Children and families is the main thing. The first thing that we've got to have to be able to do that is a place to house them, a place for them to live. And we have the campus there. We have a school that's already there that we bring students in, and we also help to train them in several different types of skills. We have carpentry classes, tile laying classes, masonry classes, gardening classes, computer classes. There's just numerous things that we do there with the students that we have, and we want to be able to make this available for a lot of other people. As you can see, I don't know how many it might be, but you can see the first thing we got to have is a place for them to live. So that's where we're saying, okay, we need some living quarters there. Some of the units, if you could flip it up a little bit so we can see the units there. This is one of the units that we have had designed. It has actually 12 single-family units single bedroom units as a small kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and a living area there. And that's much bigger than the family areas that we have down in the shelter at Monroe. But anyway, that's one of them. Then if you flip to the next one, please. That's another unit there that we have designed that will have 6 units in it, and those are 2 bedroom, a bath and a half with a family area, kitchen, and a small dining area. So it's nothing something, but one thing that we want to do also is we've been here again, that church has been here since 1906. We've been here 120 years almost. And looking at our record there, we try not to do anything to tear down or hurt the community. We just built some homes there on True Light Church Road in the last couple of years. We had some lots there, and we built some small units there basically for the same thing. Right now we have over there in that community, we have 5 families, refugees from over Ukraine that has come in here that we're helping them to get on their feet, get a life back again. And we want to be able to do this more and to utilize the property that we have there better than what we have in the past. And we also, as we go on, if you flip it back again to the area, as we go on, it mentions there bunkhouses. We'd also like to have it where we can have like a Christian camp out there where they can bring students in or children and have them there for a week or however long and be able to bring them in. We've got all that property there to where they can, we're planning on putting some trails, walking trails, just different things there that we can have to be able to bring the children out there, give them a different life, and also teach them about Christ. Teach them about that there's something else in this world besides just the natural things. So we want to help families and children that don't have the opportunity. It's the main thing that what we're looking for. Down at the very bottom down there, it shows 12 lots. That was just basically a kind of an afterthought as the street comes in down through there that we will eventually build. When we first start it, we'll probably use the entrance into the church there and come on down and come in up at the very top there and to bring in the driveway there. But as we do develop this and put those street in there, there is 12 lots there that we may use at some time to maybe build some small little homes. We're working now with Wings of Eagles Ministry over in Cabarrus County, and they're building some little small units like that where they can bring families out that have handicapped children. And it may be something that we might do that later. That's way down the pathway. This entire project, though, is not something that we're planning on just doing immediately. We'll probably start 2 of these units hopefully within the next year, and we'll see how those go, how they get full, and then we'll build a couple more. This project to do the entire thing could probably take 10 years or so. It all depends on how rapid things would happen, but we're not planning on something just jumping into it really, really quick. The Family Life Center that we have there's a lot of parking lot spaces around it, but that thing is going to be used basically for the people that would be living there, or during when we have some children out for camps, would be what the basic part of it would. There may be some other times when we may have some other function there, but that's basically just a building where they can have some indoor facilities there to have some type of entertainment, basketball, ping pong, or, just that type thing, what you'd normally see in a family life center around the church. But that's pretty much up in the very corner up there. It kind of looks like a racetrack. I've had some people ask me, y'all putting a racetrack out there? That's a retention pond is what that actually is, but for the entire project there. But that pretty much covers everything there. Is there any questions that you might have for us?
Can you state your address, please?
My address is 4524 Carricker Road. There has been some question, about traffic and things. And in the very beginning, when we started this, we were told to do some studies and stuff on that. And we have done that. And I have my traffic advisor engineer here tonight. And I'd like for him to be able to present that to you, if it's okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Brady, when he gets finished, I'd like to say a few more words.
Thank you, Mike. Good evening, board. Name is Brady Finkley. I'm with Kimley Horn and Associates at 200 South Trowne Street, Suite 200, Charlotte, North Carolina, 28202. And just a little bit about myself. I grew up in the area. I grew up off Flyers Road in the 90s, so I've seen the growth here firsthand and understand the traffic increases we've seen around here. I'm a professional engineer. I'm also a road safety professional. So an engineer, but also look at certified through the safety lens as well. I've been practicing in and around Charlotte for about 17 years, since 2008. And primarily my practice is helping out on the public side, helping out local towns. And so been working with this type of facilities and from a traffic standpoint for the bulk of those 17 years. And so we looked at it from a few different ways. Number one was from the site trip generation perspective. And then the second piece would be from the existing street, so True Light Church Road. And typically when you're looking at the needs for additional turn lanes or additional capacity or safety issues, you usually have a combination of a lot of site traffic generation and a combination of that with a lot of traffic on the existing road. And so we looked at it from both ways. First off, from the site trip generation to see, first off, do we need a study? To give you a relative basis, NCDOT typically doesn't require a traffic study unless there's at least 3,000 trips per day. Town of Mint Hill does a great job of lowering that threshold quite a bit. So their typical threshold is either 1,000 daily trips or 100 peak hour trips to require a study. All right, so we ran the trip gen, not just for this first phase that Mike mentioned, but for the full potential build out that you see on the screen there. And based on that, the daily projected trip generation is 424 daily trips, 36 AM peak hour trips, that's both in and out combined, and 40 PM peak hour trips. Okay, so again, comparing that to the town's threshold of 1,000 daily, we're at 424 daily, or 100 peak hour, we're at 36 AM and 40 PM. In addition, the town also would require a traffic technical memorandum if you have at least 50 peak hour trips, which we do not have either. As Mike mentioned, a traffic study wasn't needed. Another thing that could be required outside of a typical traffic study is just looking at turn lanes at your site. And so NCDOT, regardless of a study, they'll typically look at requiring a turn lane if you have at least 4,000 trips on the existing road. So in other words, the True Light Church Road if it was an NCDOT road and had 4,000 daily trips, that might be where they're looking at a turn lane. We did a tube count out there, and we counted 2,150, so just a little bit over half the traffic out there. I know a lot of numbers there, so sort of scale that down just a bit. From a site trip generation standpoint, we're looking at, in the AM, about one car every 6 minutes generated during the highest AM peak hour, and the PM, one car generated every 2.5 minutes. we looked at a few different ways, and it really doesn't warrant a left turn lane or a right turn lane if you were to run the analysis. And so, with that said, we ended up recommending that no turn lanes would be recommended, and that it also did not meet the town's threshold for a study. I know I ran through a lot of numbers out there for you, but if you have any questions, definitely happy to answer those.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have some questions, so I don't know if you want to start with some.
Anything for the traffic engineer?
Oh, I'm not a traffic engineer.
Well, I mean,
but-
because I think Mr. McGee wanted to come back up.
Well, I mean, I do have questions for both.
Yeah.
So,
Did you want to speak before we get into the questions? Pardon me?
You can ask both of us. while
Okay.
we're here.
Okay.
well, since he's here, I did drive down there this afternoon, and I drove over the weekend down there. And you're like 4 to 6 cars, 0.1 of a mile away from a 4-way stop. And crossing over that 4-way stop could be kind of dangerous because you're really close to that 4-way stop. And another concern that I had was that with not having a right or left turn lane and the 4-way stop there, that could be a traffic hazard. Not only that, we also have more communities coming in. So on the street True Light, as well as right on the corner of Lawyers and True Light. And GPS generally takes people that direction to get to 485. So that 2,000 or 4,000, threshold that you're talking about, I don't know if that would be substantial.
Could you clarify on what would not be substantial?
Well,
2,000?
When I drove down there were more than the cars that you stated. Even, it was like maybe at 5:45, so I guess that would be considered peak. And
It was
it
more
was
than which
busy.
number?
Even at the 4-way stop crossing over, going down towards Oxfordshire.
Right.
Yes.
So crossing at Will Grove, Mint Hill?
Correct.
Yeah, so that would be traffic that's on Will Grove, Mint Hill and True
No,
Light
crossing
Service, right?
over, crossing True Light, going
Okay.
on True Light, crossing over Will Grove Mint Hill.
Sure. So
Yeah.
which number would it be higher than?
What do you mean?
Or I guess you indicated.
I'm saying
that
it's
higher than the
higher,
numbers
yes,
that we had
it
said.
was quite a bit of cars there, driving down through there from the 4-way stop.
But that would have been in that daily count that we had done. We put a counter there on that road.
Yes,
And that would have been in that count. That was almost half what the state would require
Right.
on that.
and then when you're looking at school buses, so if you're going to have children there, they'll have to go to school. And so with children, they'll need to have a sidewalk or some kind of safety. It's really thin on that road. So that road is very narrow. So the children will need a sidewalk, they'll need a little bit of more safety than just standing there on the edge there with children and bus stops. So that was a concern for me, just seeing that road. But should I get to the questions now? Or?
Sure.
Oh, those were just
Well,
statements.
I was just going to add, I guess
Okay.
my question when was the traffic count done? Because most of them have to be done during school.
That's right. Yeah, it was done on August 28th.
So that was during school?
That's right.
That was
Yeah,
during-
CMS had already been, and we don't like to count the first week either, so we waited until they were in session for at least a week. And it was on a Thursday, I believe. We don't count on Mondays and Fridays.
Okay. Yeah, good.
Okay. And, with school, anyway, we'll move on. Should I go to the questions?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
So I was at the meeting on Thursday, and you didn't have a time frame yet for the residents, how long the residents would be there at your compound? I guess the homeless and the women and children? Do you have a time frame?
That would all depend on how well we could get them acclimated back in to where they can go and make it on their own.
Okay.
It might be something very quickly, or it might be something it might take a year or so.
Yes,
But what our goal is to be able to help them.
yes. Will they be housed together, like the women and will there be men there on that campus?
There could be either way, could be, but they would be in individual units. They would
Okay.
not be, housed together on that.
Okay. So women, children, and then homeless men will be on
We're
the
not-
same campus?
We're not talking about just bringing homeless men or homeless women in there just
Okay.
because off the street, this type. That's not at all what we're trying to
Okay.
accomplish here.
Okay. Will there be a curfew for?
There will be very heavy rules and regulations involved in this that there'll have to be, there'll be no drugs, alcohol, tobacco, all that type stuff on this campus.
And you'll do like checks?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And we will probably have someone that lives there, maybe in each unit,
Okay.
that manages the thing. There will be somebody, it'll be highly managed.
Okay. There are no sidewalks going up True Light Church Road, so there's no transportation. Many people in the community of, being homeless, they don't have transportation. So how will they get to public transportation?
That's another thing, what we have helped in many cases is to help them to also be able to have a car.
Okay.
Where they can get around. And we have some vans and things that we will be able to help them to do that. But if you say that they don't have vehicles, then that takes that traffic count that we're talking about way down. We're talking about already having the traffic count there.
Right, but their safety, trying to walk up to.
Oh, yeah, right now,
Bus stop there.
that would not be a good thing because
Right.
there's no
No
walk,
sidewalks
nothing there.
around.
No, I wouldn't have. And then even when you get out there to Willgrove Mint Hill Road, there's not sidewalks all the way down there, so it's not conducive, any of that's not conducive to walking.
Right,
But that's something that we would have to help them to have as transportation.
yes. And then the students, you don't know how many you'll have, but you will have women and children. So with children, you have, the school, I'm not sure if they'll be at Bain or
Well-
Northeast or, where they'll be.
Our goal is there, and that's some of the things we have, eventually, we have some classrooms there. Our goal is to have a school on that property.
Okay.
We already have a state-approved school there.
Okay,
Then we can use in some of our other buildings there that what we can have classrooms there.
okay,
And our goal is to eventually have it where they go to school right there. A place they can come and live. We can help to train them in many things and also teach them their academics.
okay,
That's our goal.
okay. That's all I have right now.
Thank you, Rhonda. Anything else you'd like to say, Mr. McGee?
Well, the main thing I just want to say is that our goal here, and I just said part of that, our goal here is not to bring in a bunch of homeless people off the street, men and whatever, that's just your standard type thing. That's not our goal. Our goal is to be able to try to help families and children. That's the main thing. And I'm not going to ever say there may not be a single person but it's going to have to be one that's really vetted to come in there. Because we don't want, I deal with that type at 2 different locations that I've worked with now. And that's not at all what we're wanting to do here. We want to help to bring something in that's going to be good for the community. And as I was talking to the lady over here at Servant's Heart, Kim, I don't remember her last name, but she says there is a tremendous need in this area for affordable housing for this type people. And a lot of this, they won't even be required to have to pay unless they're able to come in and start doing something, and then it'll be a reduced amount that they would be able to help to just cover some of the cost on it there. That's what we're looking at right now.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So you were saying that, excuse me, that you would like to have classrooms there and educate, kind of bring them through schooling there. But are you going to be transitional, or are you going to be, because it sounds to me if somebody's going to move in, they have the opportunity to send their kids to school there. That doesn't sound like we're getting them on their feet. It kind of sounds like we're making them more of a permanent residence for them.
Well, that all depends. of what we're actually got. If we have a family there, yes, they get on their feet and they come on, yes, they can move out and go on and do that. While they're there, if we can help them do that, but also if we have children, and there is a tremendous need. I have worked and dealt with a church in Greenville, South Carolina, Tabernacle Baptist, and they literally bring young men and girls in that don't have a home, don't have a father or mother even in a lot of cases. Somehow that's all gone. And they bring them in and they house them there. They've got a very nice facility and they have the school there and everything for it. I've hired several of those people before that has lived in that. And that's what, as we go on through, that bunkhouse maybe could be used for something like that, that we could house them and train them, give them their classroom, everything right there.
So as your campus grows from face to face, you don't ever see it at a point where you're going to reach that traffic threshold.
I'm sorry.
You're going to reach that traffic threshold in your mind that
Oh,
you're going to need turn lanes.
If it does, then we will, we don't want to do anything that's going to create a hazard out there. And if it gets to where it meets those things there, we'll be happy to take a look at that. And at that time, we'd say, okay, let's do whatever's necessary to do.
But at the current occupancy you're showing, it does not meet.
That's with all of those buildings, that's
So
what he said.
based on that plan right there, based on those number of units, those square footages that's on the current plan. So if things were to change and you change the plan, then I think you'd probably have to go back through the process, and that's where you would look at the need for potential traffic study.
So in the dorms or the living quarters, can we go back to that slide? The one that shows this,
Yes, sir.
is that a dorm or is that a living
That
quarter?
would just be like a dormitory because it's one bedroom. It's kind of what we call it.
12.
Okay, so it says
You can call it living quarters, dorm,
it's 10,
whatever.
but it's showing 12.
Right
I was
now,
just confused. The rendering shows 12 units and
that,
the drawing says 10.
I know, the drawing is actually wrong. I noticed that too, because the plan is a 12 unit, but the drawing's actually wrong. Or on the plan it says 10 unit, but that's what we proposed and sent in.
So is it 10 or 12?
12, 12 is what it would be.
Okay, so we got 12, okay. And those are single unit
Single bedroom.
apartments?
Single bedroom, yes.
Okay. So they don't have kitchens or,
They have a kitchen, bathroom, family area, and a bedroom. in
Okay.
Each one of them, separate. That's so that it goes back to what her comment was, there would be no commingling there.
right. So it's a live alone single, one occupant per
Well, it may be
husband, wife.
right, or it may be somebody that has one or two kids. To say, in the shelter down there, we have like 3 or 4 beds in one big room that they use, and then they have a lounge area that they all use. But that could very easily be for 2 or 3, 4 people.
Well, and that's I guess where I'm kind of getting confused is how you're getting your counts. If you're counting them as beds and it's a single unit, but there could be up to 2 or 3 or more living in it.
What
I'm trying to get occupancy in my head as to what our total occupancy is based on what you have here, but I'm hearing there's a potential it could be more than what is shown. To me, when I see 10 dorm rooms, I'm thinking 1 bed, 1 kitchen, 1 bathroom, maximum 2 people. And then, well, if they have kids I'm hearing, I'm just trying to get straight in my head total numbers.
I understand, and that's most likely what it's going to be, but I don't want it to have to be, say, it's limited to that.
Sure.
Because I want it to be able to, if there is a need, that we can help it.
And that's a great question. We get that a lot because Makes sense, right? Trying to understand, how do you not know how many trips there's gonna be if you don't know how many people are gonna be there, is basically the question. So ITE, Institute of Transportation Engineers, which is what we base our trip generation projections on. It's been used ever since 60s and 70s, been collecting samples all across the board. They don't actually base their trips off of number of people or even strictly number of units. So when we look at multifamily apartments, they look at low-rise, mid-rise, high-rise, separated that way, and they can separate it whether or not it's close to a light rail, for example.
Public transit, yeah.
But other than that, it's a little bit more generalized, because a lot of times when they take their samples, they don't know exactly how many people are in there occupied at a time. So when you extrapolate all that data out, it's really just based off of, on average, multifamily units, not bedroom, but units. And so if all of these were, in fact, single occupant, single bedroom, the trip gen would actually be a lot lower even than what we projected here.
I
It's
have
basing it
another
off of
question.
probably an average of 2, maybe 3 bedrooms per apartment.
Okay. I have another question. So you're only speaking of the occupants. What about like employees? You've got maintenance, you've got teachers.
It includes all
you
that,
have-
that's right. So think about if, think of an apartment complex off the top of your head. The way these trip gens are generated is they would go out and just count how many cars are going in and out of those apartment complexes, which would include people that are dropping off, or food deliveries or truck deliveries. All the trips, whenever we take the samples to generate these calculations, they don't care if a car is there for living purposes or not. It's just based on number of units, this is how many cars it generates. Does that
And
make
I
sense?
think for me, I'm looking at the current residents of Mint Hill, not just those living in the compound. If I were driving across a four-way stop and then having to, yield or stop for someone turning right or left, I just feel like it needs to have a right and left turn lane for our current residents now living in Mint Hill, not just your compound residents.
So I guess the right turn lane, help me understand how, so the four-way stop that's just south of it, Willow Grove, Mint Hill.
It is
the right
very
turn
close,
lane,
very
right?
close to where your location is.
So how would the right turn lane help?
Well, because if it's a right turn lane, it's not impeding traffic of those turning right into your compound. I'm sorry, what are you calling it? I'm saying it wrong. What should I call your
Campus.
campus? Your campus. So those turning right into your campus, it will not impede traffic if I were going to 485 crossing over Willow Grove Mint Hill Road. It's a lot of traffic going across there.
I'll say, based on the accounts that we're projecting here, it would have very minimal impact to existing traffic on Tree Light Church Road.
And we've got a new community coming in just within a year, so it can quickly change is all I'm saying.
It can, sure.
Okay.
One thing I'd just like to, in ending, when you're talking about these turning lanes and decel lanes, that can cost, to do what you're saying, to put a right hand and a left hand there, would cost anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000 extra to put that in. I do developing also, some subdivisions, and that's what it's gonna cost extra. If I was building a subdivision, then you can pass that along to the people that's buying the lots there, and the homeowner eventually is who's gonna end up paying for that. We're not passing this along to anybody. This is money that has been brought in, that's been given to the church to use. And I would certainly appreciate any thoughts that you have along those lines, that if it's needed, I want to see it. If it's something that all the statistics say that's not needed, we would certainly appreciate you looking at that, because it is extremely expensive. I could build one of those buildings basically for the money that we're talking about to put out there on the road, that really there's not a whole lot of people that's going to ever know the difference out there. It would be a little bit, but not a tremendous amount. I thank you for your time, and if there's no other questions, I'll sit down.
Well, you got any questions?
Yeah,
George?
just a couple.
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
McGee. That's a great point. Yes, pretty expensive to do that. Do you think it would be expensive 5 years from now? More? Do you think it'll be more expensive?
Possibly,
What about 10 years from now?
possibly.
So earlier you mentioned that it could be a 10-year development plan.
But will we ever even, at that time, will it ever be where we need it even then?
So, yeah, I mean, who knows, right? The
Right.
town is growing, right? And as we mentioned earlier, right, we have to look out for the best
Yes, sir.
interests of all the
Understand.
members of the town. So, just something to consider. Again,
Yes, sir.
no one likes spending money. I totally
understand.
get it. If you don't have to, don't spend it. Regarding the units, will they be FHA or ADA compliant?
I'm sure that there will be some that will have to be. Now, the 2 stories where there's bedrooms upstairs, and that, they will not. But there will be some in the lower level on the other one that will be
Okay.
handicap compliant.
What about the residential lots? Are those going to be owned by the church, or will those
Yeah.
be?
All of this will be owned by the church. There's nothing transferring right now, nothing.
So the individual residential lots will never be sold off individually to,
That's our plan right now.
that's the plan. So I think just something to consider if they ever are sold off, because they will be individual, single-family residences. We're introducing an issue with the maintenance of that drive and it being private.
I was under the knowledge there that it wouldn't be private. It would be a public road is what I've been told that Mint Hill would require.
So this will be revised, the site plan?
Do what?
Will the site plan be revised?
No, that street coming in there would be a public road.
Okay.
It doesn't say,
Your plan says private, that's why we.
I didn't know that. I was told, and I thought it was gonna be, hey, we'd like for it to stay private because it's fine with us. But we could, it'll all be designed and everything just like a public road. And if it doesn't have to be, we'd like for it to be private so that we could control who comes in there and not.
So when you say control, are you suggesting that there would be a gate of some type?
I don't really like gates, but I just like to, we don't even have them on our parking lots at the church. At one time, years ago, we had stuff there and I had them removed because I just don't, I like to see it open. I like to see people be welcome, but I also like to be able to control who comes in there.
Sure.
And if it's a private road, I can go tell someone that you can't come in here.
Right. Let's see. And I apologize if I didn't attend the meeting, I guess, last week. I
That's
wasn't
okay.
aware of that, but I'm assuming you've had feedback from the adjacent property owners?
Haven't had anything other than down in Bainbridge, someone from their homeowners association was here and he didn't really have anything negative. He wanted to portray it as a homeless center and he said, is that what we need here in Mint Hill? And I certainly don't want to do it, but what I'm talking about, I think we definitely need it here.
I think that's all the questions I have.
All right. Well, I've got a few myself. I
Yes,
guess, starting off, I guess that, now that you say private, if it's going to be a public, it's kind of like I had a conversation with somebody today on the phone, how those little fine details, they change the dynamics of many things. So for me, I'm just looking at this and I'm thinking, if it's a private road, are you going to master meter all this stuff? Are y'all going to pay all the utility bills and provide private sewer laterals and private water?
Now, all that'll be, it will be on county sewer and water, all of it will. And if we put it in, if it continues to all the way on those lots, and as I said before, those lots were just an afterthought. They're half-acre lots. They're, basically by right. It's not we're not trying to bring higher density or anything there. We're just bringing that road in, and the guy was drawing it. He said, let's just put these lots there. We may use them sometime, but that's not on the horizon right now. He just put them on there.
Okay, because if there's any potential for this to be sold off, then it changes the dynamics of everything, you know, that's why I was asking.
As far as I can tell, in my lifetime, and I don't think it'd be anything else, that would be sold.
But again, going back, are you going to have, is everybody going to get free water? Or are you going to be sending them a water bill?
If you do it on those lots, they would have individual meters and individual, because you.
But the individual meters would
Right.
require it to be a public road. And if it's a public road, now you're talking about a subdivision, which kind of gets back to what you said earlier, that you know that adds to the people that are buying subdivisions. But this is kind of, to me, if we don't comply with those same requirements that subdivisions have to comply with, then we're kind of doing a workaround and end around to the whole subdivision
Now, you
concept.
talking about the building of the street.
Well, if there's the potential for these 12 lots to be sold off in the future, if they're individually metered, first thing they've got to have, the water and sewer system has to be in a public right-of-way. So the roads have to be public roads.
You probably have way more knowledge than that. Everything that I do normally has a public right of way on it.
Yes.
So I guess
Yes.
that's true, but I have not,
Which kind of gets back to what you had
Right.
said earlier about, you know, subdivisions, they have to do it. But, and, you know, it's commendable. It's a great plan, and I think it's a great idea.
whatever, I can tell you, whatever has to be done on that to make it right, that
Yeah.
will be done.
So if it was a subdivision and a subdivision had to do a right turn lane or something, then that would be the same application to you. That would be,
Well,
if you were doing a
We're
subdivision.
not, you can just take those lots off of there if it's going to create that big of an issue, because
Well, I get-
that's not something that we're trying to.
Yeah, I'm just
get
looking at
to.
it from your perspective. If you're going to meter each one of these lots, then you have to put in a public road.
Okay.
To do the sewer system going to them has to be a public sewer system, because those could be sold off, and that's just the rules of today with water and sewer. So that's why I was kind of just clarifying that it says private on the plan, but I guess whether or not if it's private or public is a pretty critical item we need to clarify tonight to make a recommendation one way or the other.
As far as I'm concerned, you can say it's public, as far as that goes.
Okay.
If you, and leave those lots there, or, because that was my understanding, that it had to be a public road.
Yes. Well, I mean, you could, I guess,
That was what I was.
own and
already
operate them
told.
all yourself and treat it like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what would that be, John? I don't know how,
Public?
well, what kind of a development would house people and let them stay, but it would be owned by one entity? It's kind of like free rental property or something. I don't know what you would call that. What classification that would put this in?
Good question. I don't know. But I do like this conversation because we definitely need to nail down if this is public or private. Would he prefer private, or is he okay with public, or to take off the whole phase? Because I already see some issues, because this went through all the review as a private street cross-section, which will never meet our standards. And they are also using a swell that
Yep.
they may be getting credit for their stormwater, for their BMP. Of course, if it's a public street, which is, it sounds like that's what he intended it to be, now we're talking about a different type of street. Now we're talking about street sidewalks, more asphalt and street trees and all the requirements that the town has. We need to know, for sure, need to know this, the public or the private. And I was going to say a couple other things about the subdivision itself. If it's public, that kind of answers the question. We just need to look at a new standard to make sure that the county reviewed it, knowing now there's going to be curb and gutter instead of a swell. We need to make sure that's cleared up. And as far as the lots go, if this plan is ultimately successful, they would still have to come back for subdivision approval. Even if it was a private street, even if he prefers to keep it private and the board blesses that, they still would have to come back for subdivision approval. So if that phase comes up in a, you know, I think you said it was one of your later phases, if you ever get to
They
it.
never get done.
Right. So in that case, I mean, really, they would have to come back. We would not allow these lots to be recorded until they come back through and get planning board authorization, private or public.
And in which case, like I said, this does not comply with what would,
Yeah.
Why
so
don't we
it would
do-
have to be private, but if it's going to be private, you can't put a public water system and meter it to each lot because Charlotte Water won't allow water and sewer systems in private right-of-ways. It has to be a public right-of-way for Charlotte Water to have a meter, which would require you to have your own water system that you could meter
Right.
each one,
Or
but
as
that's
far
going to
as-
require you to be a public water system approved through the state because now you're buying and selling water.
Or even that, as far as that goes, and we do some of that now, where people live there and we pay water bills. And you'd just be all one big water bill there with the whole thing.
Yeah, and you could master meter it,
Right, that's what I was saying.
but there would be no meters at each individual
Well, if we're not
unit.
selling it, it
Right.
doesn't really make any difference.
Right,
And don't have any intention of selling that.
okay. But I thought you had said that you were going to put meters at each unit.
Well, I was just thinking, as a developer, if I got lots down through there, you'd put a meter and stuff on each one. But if what you're saying, if that's a private street and they don't do it, run the water in there and put it on each building and we pay the master meter, and that's it.
Okay,
That's what we would do, and leave it private and go ahead.
okay. And I guess my other question is, I'm just trying to understand, I think all your traffic counts are going to be, not that it's going to make a difference, but if we got, these dorm units are actually 12, it looks like all the traffic counts were based off of 10 units, whereas actually, so that 38 will go up to 40.
Yeah, so we had assumed 38, so if that was the case, it would be 40. So it would increase it probably from 36 to maybe
42.
37 AM trips and 40 to maybe 41 PM trips.
Yeah, because I think the town had gotten Dave Naylor to do a trip generation, and I don't know if that would put it over the 1,000 daily trips if they did that, because they came up with a different number. Dave Naylor did.
So my understanding was that they looked at the Family Life Center. Is that what we're calling the building?
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's only a certain number, there's a lot of them, but land use codes you can apply these to. My understanding was that Trip Gen ran that as like a YMCA, basically a health/club facility, which through a description, it talks about how those typically have daycares, basketball courts, saunas, gym memberships, all that kind of stuff. And so that's clearly not what would be the case here. My understanding is that facility probably wouldn't even really generate external traffic because it will be utilized by the residents on site.
So which kind of leads into my next one. I was just trying to understand the classrooms. I mean, you got to understand that when we make a recommendation, whatever is shown, it might imply something different. But if the word says it's a classroom, then, well, I can have classes and I can have students coming in every day. I don't know. That's just the way we have to look at it. So I was just trying to understand the whole bunkhouse and classroom concept. I can understand the living quarters, the dorms, and the Family Life Center, but I was just trying to understand the boys and girls bunkhouse and the classrooms is.
That, the classrooms could be for both of those things. As I mentioned a while ago about the church in Greenville that has a facility there that they bring in children and boys and girls, and they have them separated in different things, and each one will have a bed and a little area there in that room. We might use that at some time, but my first thoughts is where that we'd be coming in with like a summer camp where kids come in there for a week at a time or however long, and that there'd be a bunk room there for boys and one for the girls. And the classrooms, that's something that's down the road also. As I said, we have classrooms in some of our other buildings, and it was just that if you need it, if you think you might want it put in here, put that on the plan is what I was instructed to do. And that's what eventually we may need some more classrooms there, and we just put it on the plan to do that.
So would that be kind of, are you talking about making it like a school that people would show up at 8 o'clock in the morning and parents would come pick their kids up
Well, it's
in the afternoon, or?
mainly for students that's there, that's living there, is the main thing it would be.
Right, and you say, and when you say the main thing, I can appreciate that, and maybe it's intended, but that's what I was getting at, that whatever we approve, if it says a classroom, then you can you can start bringing kids in at 8 o'clock in the morning and parents come and picking them up, which I think would change the dynamics of the TIA and everything.
And it could, and as I mentioned earlier, if we go in and they do certain things when we build this, if it changes those things, we'll be glad to take a look at it and comply with whatever you feel like.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm getting at is there's the potential for this to become much more substantial. And kind of going back to what we had said earlier about just a right turn lane, if that alleviates some of the concern, it seems, as you said, that if a subdivision goes in, especially if you turn these into potential lots that you could sell off, then why wouldn't we comply with those same rules?
But we're not putting lots in to sell off. And we're not going to be generating the same amount that what a subdivision would be generating.
Well, I think to John's point, I guess if that's going to have to come back through subdivision and would require the roads to be redone. So I don't think there's the potential, correct me if I'm wrong, John, that that could ever come back and get us. If they did want to switch this over, they'd have to rebuild the roads, redo everything.
Well, we just need to be very, or, excuse me, at least the Board of Commissioners needs to be very clear on what they're approving. I mean, at the end of the day, let's say it is 10 years from now, they come back, they're going to bring this plan to staff here 10 years from now and say, I'm ready to do it. And whatever you guys lock in with this approval, that is what they're going to be entitled to do. I mean, what I was referring to earlier as far as them coming back through a subdivision process, I mean, that's just a process. It won't change anything. We won't have another crack at, well, now we think we should do a new TIA, because that in and of itself would never qualify. So, we don't have that. This would just be the process that I was referring to. They have to come back and get the official subdivision approval.
So I guess the question to you is, because it sounds to me like we could potentially recommend approval of this based on the fact that there's restrictions that these lots could never be sold off.
Right, you could.
Is it better said to just solely base it on phase one? Whatever decision we made, it's just based on phase one? Does that simplify it? Or am I overthinking that?
Well, phase one would be just the
5
24 dorm units and the 18 living quarters
In the road.
in the access road. But again, that's a question for you, Mr. McGee. Is that okay that you're going to pay for all their water and sewer and or I don't know about electricity, but water and sewer? Because if we approve this as a private road, you cannot meter
I understand.
each unit.
And if we would do that, I'd say yes.
We just did ISKCON, and they had to have a right and left turn lane, and they are a house of worship as well. So I just think it should be, the right turn lane needs to be there for our current residents in Mint Hill. We should not have to be impeded in traffic because we don't know what the numbers will be.
Yeah, and I hear what you're saying as far as the cost of it. I don't think a right turn lane is going to approach those numbers
Yes, sir.
just for the right turn lane.
It's basically the same as the left.
I would agree.
Well, I don't think you're going to need to acquire any I think you got plenty of right-of-way there.
I don't even, is there even a right of way there? A lot of times you get into it and there's not even a right of way on a lot
Yeah.
of these roads.
Well, your plan says it's 60 foot of right-of-way.
And it may be, but when you get into it, is that actually there?
Yep. I'm very familiar with that one too, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, and then I think the one last thing I looked at, not that this will probably, you haven't been through technical review with Mecklenburg County. You've been through the sketch plan review,
Yes, sir.
but the SDE, you're going to have to provide a right-of-way for access to that pond that goes all the way out to a public right-of-way, if this is a private road.
I don't have the
Yeah.
engineer here tonight to
Yeah,
all that. I
that's-
can't tell you what all.
That's
it-
quite all right. They just showed that SDE storm drain easement extending to your private drive, but that will have to go all the way out to True Light Church Road. They can just include the private road as an SDE,
Right.
but then there's restrictions on an SDE that might impact what you want to do with it.
I'm sure that's why I use engineers
Yeah.
to make all that.
All right. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else? Do we want to, does somebody want to try to?
I don't even know how we would motion.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out. Are we going to motion it by phases, or are we going to do the whole plan?
Definitely the right.
I don't know
turn.
how you would carve out, I mean, a motion for just phase one, because that includes the road coming in. I mean, I still think we don't want to make the same mistakes I've seen made living in this town all my life, is that, well, it's never going to happen. And guess what? It happens. You know, I see it on roadways, I see it on utilities, I see it on, you know, almost everything that affects us, is the what if is never going to happen. So I would think at the bare minimum, we would want the right-hand turn lane. But I would be okay with that if we're doing phase one.
Be okay with without the right turn?
No,
or
with the right-hand turn lane and not having the left-hand.
Yeah, for just phase one.
But if we're going to approve that they could do phase two, phase three, phase four based on this,
Well, sorry to
Yes.
go ahead, John.
But-
I'm looking for
But
guidance.
yeah, this is a tough one because technically the proposal is the multi-phase plan. Favorable or unfavorable. That's what makes this difficult. And I think that's a reasonable request to say just the phase. But I'm trying to think how you could even carve out the motion to the board to say, we like it, but only one phase.
Well,
Because that's not what they're asking. They're asking for all 5 phases. So
right.
that almost kind of leans you towards just saying unfavorable, but maybe with the caveat of
Right and left turn lane.
you're receptive to the phase one. Or the applicant could also, this is between y'all, could come back with a phase one plan if that is something y'all wanted to look.
Well, and I'm not necessarily saying just phase one. That just was what was
Yeah,
brought up.
yeah, I mean, I'm just. yeah.
But is it in a better light to say, as the plan stands now, unfavorable recommendation? Or is it, let's look at, you know, one or two of the phases, or take the subdivision piece out, or whatever, and bring it back to the board for a full approval? I don't know.
How about this? if you could figure out a way to put this in words into your motion, I wonder if you could accept it with the condition that the phases, basically phase 2 to 2 to 4, has to come back for conditional rezoning. So that would be kind of a way to still pass along that favorable recommendation, but give the board the opportunity to have that discussion of, hey, we do like phase 1. You seem to have much more certainty about phase 1, a little vague on the other phases. You're not sure even when it's going to happen. So just come back for those when you have when you're ready. So maybe that's a way to kind of, I guess, tee it up for the commissioners. And that way
Well,
you're
I don't want to see it
affording-
go either way. I don't
Yeah.
want to say, okay, you're going to do this full-blown plan and we didn't accommodate for the road.
Yeah.
And it gets to a situation where it's, like he said, 10 years down the road and now you're really paying for it. The other side of that is I don't want you to spend the money if you go through with this and whatever happens in phase 1 is the only thing that gets done. You know, so I don't want to be unfair to you and I don't want to be unfair to the town.
I appreciate that.
Now,
it's-
you can tie road improvements to, so on a multi-phase plan, that is fair game to tie improvements that you think might be necessary, maybe not now with the first phase, but phase 3, we think it's needed by then. So you can have trigger points to say, by phase 4 or by the end of phase 3, you have to have a turn lane in, if that is what you're proposing.
And what about sidewalks? I mean, the sidewalk is normally required on the frontage, so that's not in there either.
Yeah, so I put that in memo, and that's a standard
Right.
requirement. You always sidewalk your
Yes.
frontage. And of course, if he changes this to a public street, that changes that too, because
That
now we
makes
got
sense.
sidewalk on that. So, yeah, that, the public street thing needs to,
But I
sort of
thought we
nailed it.
went back to where we were just gonna leave it as a private street. And if we metered it, it'd just be a master meter for all those lots, if that is even ever done. But if you could do something like what you were just talking about, put it where,
Could you
I'm
speak?
sorry, if, you went after phase 3, then put in the turn lane if those things, because I don't know if we'll ever even get to that at this time.
Well, we could just tie it to conditional zoning after phase 1. So if you're going to go to a second phase, you're going to have to come back if you go to a third phase. Instead of saying that phase 3 you have to do it or phase 4 you have to do it.
that's right. That's right. And that does allow staff to have that ability, because obviously they have to pull permits for that phase 2, which we would know there was a condition adopted on this plan that says by phase 2, you have to put in turn lanes. So that would be our opportunity to say, okay, no permit until turn lane is done or bonded, or, we would work out something like that.
So hopefully you know that it's a great idea. I'm really trying to look out for you because I deal with these hurdles on a daily basis, and I don't want you to think you're getting something you're not,
Right.
and don't realize all the challenges you're going to deal with down the road. That's really all I'm trying to.
I apologize, but I really think the right turn lane needs to go in, whether it's phase 1, 2, 3, or 4. I
Okay.
really think it's busy down there. It's four-way stop right there, and it will impede traffic, even with the construction. And that's just mine.
Excuse me, I just wanted to clarify, because it would be an important point. When we're talking about the turn lanes, which driveway are we talking about?
Going into your campus, so going on True Light Church Road, going away from Will Grove Mint Hill Road at that four-way stop, you're like 7 cars down before you turn right. So if there are 7 cars driving on True Light Church Road, they will be impeded with one of your vehicles going onto your private street or public street, whatever.
But that's going the opposite way. So that, because the last 2 questions, so because the four-way stop is south of here, right? So the right turn will be traffic going north. That would be pulling people away from northbound traffic.
So
But
what I'm
southbound
saying
traffic would be the
is,
queue.
if I'm traveling on True Light Church Road towards 485,
Right,
okay, so you're turning right into your campus.
Correct.
That's where the turn lane needs to be.
but at which driveway? So the existing driveway or,
Whichever one that you will be using to go into your campus.
so, because there's two existing driveways, and then there would be a new one that would not be in phase one? Is that my understanding?
That was what we were talking about earlier with.
In addition, to put some more numbers to it, for the right turn lane, we're really talking about some really low numbers. So this is for the full build out. We're talking 24 total trips that are going into the site. Now, let's say 60% come from the south, 40% come from the north. 60% of 24, let's say that's 15. So you have 15 cars going in. That's one every 4 minutes turning in there on a road that is barely half of what a typical volume threshold that NCDOT would even require a turn lane. So we're talking about one car every 4 minutes turning right in, when you would have 3 driveways in this scenario. And so if we're talking about phase one, we're talking about one car every 8 minutes or
No
so,
disrespect,
9 minutes.
sir, but I have to look out for the residents.
I understand, yeah.
Currently in Mint Hill. And like I said, I've driven there. I drive it down through there all the time. There's GPS putting people onto True Light going to 485 all the time. And so that's where my mind is. And I really think it's a great plan. I'm not against the plan at all, because a lot of people are 1 or 2 paychecks away from that. But we also have to look at our current residents, and Mint Hill is growing. It's growing very fast, and it's just not fair for us not to do this now.
I understand. I just wanted to put the numbers out there. One other thing that you were mentioning earlier, and I've seen this, again, I work with towns, growing towns all around, and when you see a plan like Classroom we talked about earlier, with this being a conditional rezoning, you could put some, correct me if I'm wrong, I think you can put conditions on what that meaning could be, right? So if you're concerned, with the concern, if we just approve this plan that says classrooms, we're hearing now that's not meant to be a typical show up, drop your kids off, 8 a.m., which would be a much different traffic pattern than what we're talking about here. Then you could put, probably work out some conditions to put that in there. And so if that use were to change to go against whatever conditions in there to protect you from that, that's a way that I've seen. I'm not an attorney, but I've seen land use attorneys work with boards to sort of put some kind of conditions in there like that.
Do we feel,
What I
do we
said.
feel like we can come up with an approach, or, because I guess what I'm thinking is it's just getting really muddy now.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, would it be better to come back after you've thought through this stuff about the public, private, classrooms, all that stuff? Would it be better so that it makes it more easier for us, the planning board, to understand? Because right now, what I'm seeing is everybody's it's getting a little muddy, and things are unclear as to what it is that you want to do in the full build out. Not that we don't like it, because like I said, I like it.
But basically, what I see as a real hangup is about the street out there. Is that not what?
True Light Church?
Yeah, putting the turning lanes in, because if you do that, then it's going to take care of all these projects here, or all these buildings that we're talking about.
Yes.
So that's really the point. that
Yes.
we're
I mean,
taking.
I think,
So-
Well, can I make a
I think it's
comment? I think
partially.
the intent here is the overall property, right? The conditional rezoning of the property. Just forget about the phases. What we're proposing, 10 years from now, whenever the full development is finished, that need may arise, the traffic impacts. I think for your benefit, it's a good plan, but I think I would revise this plan to show just phase one and the conditional rezoning of the property relative to phase one. That would be my opinion.
I appreciate what you're saying, but it's taken me 3 years to get it to this point. I don't want to, when I get ready to build another building, it take me 3 years to come back through all the hoops that I've got to jump through to get this. We've been dealing almost 3 years to try to get it to this point. And that was where we were instructed in the beginning, okay, let's figure out a way to go ahead, because these are buildings that I feel like's needed. And it may take us a few years, but I think we'll get to that. And how can we get to that? And be good neighbors and keep Mint Hill as a good place to live and to work and to come to church.
I don't disagree. Again, as a master plan, I think it shows the overall intent. But in my opinion, the question today is the conditional rezoning for what's going to be built, not what could be built.
Right.
And so that applies to phase one. And that's where all the questions are, right? Do we make it a public road or do we make it a private road?
I'm saying just leave it as a private road.
Right.
Because I don't think that's going to ever, this is basically a driveway going in there to that, but that will be built basically like a road. I mean, it's not going to be just a asphalt put out there like a driveway. It'll be built as a road.
But if you ever make it you wanted to make it a public road to sell these lots off, then you would have to redo it
Well,
and come back through
but
subdivision.
it'd have to go through all that
Right.
kind of thing, but the street's going to be probably built to the same type specs.
Well, you're using roadside swales, right? I don't think roadside swales are an acceptable street,
Okay,
so
that's fine.
that's why I'm saying. mean,
I understand. Okay.
It's, anybody else? Any more questions? Any more concerns? Do we want to try to compile a motion? Based on what we've said?
Get favorable with a sidewalk required on property frontage and right turn lane.
Well, I guess we have to vote.
I think,
That would be your
yeah,
motion.
that's what your motion would be.
I'm going to make the motion. How about you make the motion?
Scott, up to that.
I said the term.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. All right, so if we're going to do a favorable recommendation for phase one only with a right-hand turn lane and sidewalk on the road frontage of True Light,
Yes.
Church Road.
Can I or say one more thing?
Yes, sir.
If you're going to say we've got to have the turning lanes, why wouldn't we just go ahead and approve the entire thing?
Well, because that doesn't bring,
If that's going to be part
that
of,
doesn't bring the left-hand turn lane in.
do what?
That doesn't bring the left-hand turn lane in.
Yeah, the left-hand turn lane, to your point earlier, can get rather expensive. That's why I was saying the right-hand turn lane is not, and I think the traffic engineer may be able to verify that, just a right-hand turn lane is not nearly as expensive as doing
No, I mean, depending on what the utilities, right away, that kind of stuff, but typically the left turn lane, you got to shift the through lane taper over in advance, both ways. The right turn lane, you just got to build the right turn pocket. So typically right turn lanes are less expensive.
yeah, it's just 150 feet long with a taper at most.
That's right.
So that's just some asphalt.
Yeah,
It's-
I will say about the left turn lane, I mean, still the numbers don't show them being warranted, but if we were to put a left turn lane there in the future, as you're thinking about this, that would then create an issue at the existing driveway, because the length of that left turn lane and then you're tapering it over, that your taper would actually be around the location of the existing main driveway, so now you're kind of turning in and out of the existing church driveway through a transition taper, which is confusing for drivers and can actually be less safe. So I will mention that.
But I think to your point, if we just approved it, that becomes kind of kicking that can down the road.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really, I want to give them a favorable recommendation, but I don't think we can give them a favorable recommendation on the master plan as it is. If we back it back to phase one, I don't think in at least mine and Rhonda's mind, that gets rid of the right-hand turn lane and then the sidewalk. Now, how that equates to the left-hand turn when you get to phase two or when that gets enacted or phase 3, 4, 5 or whatever. I don't want to send this, say, we're just not going to give a recommendation and send you back to the drawing board. I don't think that's right either. Obviously, phase one is the first piece you're looking to do and, which would have an impact to the town immediately if you could be able to get started on it. So, John, I'm not just sure how I want to word the recommendation.
So you made the motion, you made a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I can make it if you want with the right turn lane and the front sidewalk frontage
Yeah, I just want to be sure we're getting everything in the language that needs to be
For phase one only.
for phase one only.
for phase one only. So it would be simple enough to say a motion for a favorable recommendation for phase one with a right-hand turn lane and sidewalk
Sidewalk, yeah.
on True Light.
Read the, because does he need to read the first part first and then tack on those
Well, if
conditions at
y'all
the
want to
end?
kind of clear up that
Yeah.
That's the motion.
yeah.
If we have a second.
If you want to second that.
I'll second it.
Second.
Yes.
Further questions? Got a motion for, let me read that.
No, we don't have to read that.
Do we not need to read this?
Yeah, so now that now you're passing a recommendation on.
Yep.
The planning board will always include that consistency statement recommendation.
But do we have to read the consistency statement in?
I mean, you can kind of at least breeze through it, summarize it.
Oh, sure.
You don't have to read all of it, yeah.
So ZC 25-5 appears to be consistent with the adopted land use plan, which designates the subject property as part of an institutional campus. The land use category supports a mix of functions related to the complementary uses, in this case associated with an existing church campus.
So you're making the motion for that with the conditions of the installation of a right turn lane on True Light Church Road and sidewalk along True Light Church Road for phase one only.
Correct.
Having said that, I guess now we have to vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes with the favorable recommendation with the conditions stated.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we got to move on to the next thing.
On to the next one, we have the discussion recommendation on ZC 25-7 filed by Nicholas Branford for conditional rezoning to allow an existing building to be used as a bank with drive-through service for property located at 6849 Matthews Mint Hill Road, tax parcel number 135-38175. You can state your name and address, please.
Hi. Hello, yes, my name is Nicholas Bradford. I work at 1520 South Boulevard, Suite 200, Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm representing our client PNC Bank, referencing the property at 6849 Matthew Mint Hills Road. And yes, like you said, it's proposed to be a retail bank with a drive-through ATM. Can you go to the next slide, please? So the location of this site, it's just down the road from Town Hall. It's right across from the library near the Harris Teeter. Can you go to the next slide, please? Thank you, sir. Currently, it is a vacant restaurant, fast food restaurant. It was previously a Wendy's. It's in the zoning the current zoning is BG with a downtown overlay district. So financial institutions are allowed. But the conditional use for the Wendy's drive-through was for a restaurant use only. Currently, the drive-through is like, I'll talk a little bit about it while we have it up here. The drive-through wraps around facing Highway 51, a single lane drive-through there. And so if you go to the next slide, please, John. Thank you, sir. So our proposed site plan will be to have the same transaction point on the building as before, but instead of a drive-through window, it will have a drive-through ATM and an after-hours deposit. The cash transaction window will be removed and filled in. We will provide landscaping in what is currently the portion of the drive-through that faces Highway 51. Cars stacking would be on the rear of the building, on the parking lot side of the building, going back towards Tudor Street. We don't anticipate more than 3 or 4 cars typical stacking at the drive-through for the bank. That's generally what we see. Next slide, please, sir. And then architectural changes to the building would be minimal. We're keeping the brick facade that is typical of the character of downtown Mint Hill. We would be repainting the awnings. We will be refinishing any of the metal, exterior metal pieces like trim, downspouts, bollards that are rusty or in need of maintenance. And we would be replacing all of the existing, currently right now there are light fixtures mounted on the building that have like a shepherd's crook fixture with bright red with like a cone on it. We would be replacing those with a simple black cylinder light, a little bit more understated of a look. And if you go to the next slide, this is just more of our elevations for the building. This is on the bottom, that's kind of the side that would be facing Highway 51. And that's it for us. Any questions or comments?
George, you want to go first?
Yep. How many ATMs?
For the drive-through?
Yeah.
1 ATM drive-through, yeah, and an after-hours deposit, so like a night drop.
Is there a reason why you wouldn't consider 2? If you have 2 transaction windows, I see you're infilling the first one.
Correct, yeah. Typical for these is, for PNC, is just a single bank, just a single ATM and after-hours deposit through wall on the building.
Could you remove that first awning? I guess what purpose would that serve if you left that awning there?
Right now, the purpose would just, correct, it wouldn't be necessary for that. The portion of the wall does jut out a bit from the wall behind and above it. So the awning does serve a bit as a roof of that jut out element of the building.
I would just recommend if we could remove that, that would be just a recommendation, if it's possible. The other thing on the site plan, the pergola structure out front. This may be nitpicky for the town. I think two of
Talking about
those
the-
columns have big W's on them.
Yeah, yeah.
I would recommend kind of swapping that out for either an MH or a PNC or,
Yeah, no, that's something we are talking with the landlord about, the developer.
Okay.
Yeah, and he seems favorable to it as well, so
Okay.
we can look into that.
I don't think I have any questions.
Thank you, George. Rhonda, would you like to?
I just had a question about the drive-through. With the ATM, it's really tight going through there when it was Wendy's. Will you keep it exactly the same, or will you open it up a little, the drive-through? I'm not sure if you've gone through that drive-through. If you ever go through that drive-through, you cannot get out.
You're talking about the portion that goes around the building facing Matthew Mint Hills Road?
Yes, is that the
That
one?
portion of the drive-through will be going away, and
Okay.
we'll be replacing it with landscaping. Yes, ma'am, there's no bypass lane there. Now,
Yes.
currently, there is room for a bypass lane. If you're looking at the landscaping plan, the planting
Okay.
plan, you can see north of the building, there is room for the drive lane and then also a bypass lane.
Okay.
Between the building and that concrete strip. And that's our plan, is to have because the car stacking is going to be so much less than like a Wendy's would be.
Yes,
Like I said, we're looking at 3 or 4 cars. We're looking at just stacking on the parking lot side of the building and then having a bypass lane there as well.
okay,
Yes, ma'am.
that's everything.
Thank you, Rhonda. Scott?
I don't have any questions.
So I guess mine kind of just piggybacks off of Rhonda's, so that the parking lot itself is not going to be, I mean, y'all are leasing this building, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the parking lot itself that's out there will serve, what will the parking lot serve?
The bank, the parking lot that's on our parcel would still serve the bank.
Okay, so that's, I mean, it's quite a bit of parking. I don't think
Yes, sir.
excessive, but, okay. So you'll have the access. Are they going to restripe any of that to help guide?
Oh, for the drive-through, yes, sir. There will
Okay.
be restriping for the drive-through.
Okay.
Currently, there is some striping delineating the drive-through and a bit of a bypass lane, but we would be fixing that and showing the striping going around and curving back up towards Tudor Street to capture the cars.
Okay,
Sir.
that's really all I had. Any other discussions?
Yeah, and it's walk-up as well. You can walk up into the building from the front.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The building, yes, you can enter the building and it's a full-service bank employing about 5 people. There's a walk-up ATM and a vestibule. There is a teller line. There will be several offices. So it's a full-service bank.
Okay, full service for
Yes, ma'am.
6 days a week.
Yes, ma'am. 6 days a week. So Monday through Friday, it is 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. Saturday, it's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m.
2 p.m., okay.
Well, like make a recommendation? Can you- Scott, I gave you the last one. George?
Favorable?
All right, I'll just read what it says. ZC 25-7, the request to change the use of the existing building appears to be consistent with the adopted land use plan, which designates the subject property as part of downtown. The land use category supports a broad range of uses.
What you meant to lead that off with, you'd like to make a favorable.
I like to make a favorable
Recommendation.
recommendation. Excuse me.
That's all right.
Yeah.
Second.
All
All
in favor?
Favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Passes? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
What's up on the agenda?
I think the only thing we've got left is any other business. John,
No, sir.
anybody like to make the motion we adjourn?
I'd like to make a motion for us to be adjourned.
I'll second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned.